Greetings in the Lord. Our verse today is from 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 26. And she said, "Oh my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who was standing here in your presence, praying to the Lord." This verse is drawn from the story of the birth and dedication of Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 1 verses 1 to 28. In this verse, we hear the voice of Hannah, who was one of the wives of Elkanah, the other wife being Peninnah. Every year, when the whole family went to Shiloh to offer sacrifice, Elkanah would give several portions to Peninnah and her children, but only a double portion to Hannah because she had no child. To add salt to her injury, Peninnah taunted and mocked Hannah. This happened every year, and Hannah's tears became her bread as she cried night and day. Hannah had to do something unusual. On a faithful day, after the sacrifice, she remained in the house of God. She rose and presented herself before the Lord in the bitterness of her soul. She prayed like never before in silent tears and took her destiny in her hands. Her prayer was addressed to the omnipotent deliverer of those in distress, the Lord Almighty. Her pain turned her into a theologian, because no one before Hannah in the Bible used this term to address the Lord. Despite, or perhaps because of her infertility, Hannah was a woman of faith. Your situation also should make you a person of faith. She is portrayed as the most pious woman in the Old Testament. Now the priest Eli observed her and felt she was drunk because this type of prayer was unusual. She replied to the priest not to regard her as a worthless woman. She was only a desperate woman pouring out her heart and soul to God, who has the power to change her misfortune. Eli then performed his priestly work. He blessed her with the priestly blessing, and she, who had approached the Lord in the depth of anguish, left the sanctuary elevated and transformed by her spiritual victory. Dear friends, people will laugh and mock your misery. Take your destiny in your hands and run to God and not to man. Human beings will misunderstand you, even those in authorities. Stand your ground, for God understands you. After this, Hannah conceived and gave birth to a son, and they brought him to the Lord as the law prescribed. She fulfilled her vows to the Lord. Our verse today is part of her speech addressed to the same priest, Eli. She gave her identity as the woman who was standing here before the Lord and before the priest. Now she has come back before the Lord and his priest in thanksgiving, saying, "I prayed for this child, and the Lord granted what I asked him." 1 Samuel 1:27. Joy came at last for Hannah, and her sorrowful tears were turned into joy. Many people are facing the same or similar situation as Hannah in their marriages, relationships, businesses, offices, and even in their schools. We can learn from the experience of Hannah. Some people take glory in your humiliation. A lot rejoice in your misfortune. Some others are the architects of your calamities. Hannah passed through the same situation, but she took her destiny into her own hands. She trusted God. In life, people will misunderstand and misjudge you, but God understands you, and He is the just judge. The life of Hannah is an example for us. She experienced misery and shame, but she equally experienced divine favor and celebration. In the same way, Hannah came to the house of God seeking help in her agony. She returned to the same house of God in thanksgiving to fulfill her vows. Do not forget God after He has blessed you. Hold on to God, and He will never fail you. May God hear your cries. May God wipe your tears and turn your humiliation into celebration. May your enemies gather to hear your testimony. Amen. God bless you. Have a nice day.